Have you ever found yourself giving so much of your heart, your energy, and your compassion, only to feel drained, used, or even manipulated in return? Many empaths are drawn to people who seem magnetic, confident, and captivating, but over time, those relationships can leave them feeling empty. It is not a flaw in your kindness or sensitivity. It is simply the way your deep empathy meets another person's intense need for control or admiration. Understanding why this happens is the first step toward breaking free from patterns that no longer serve you. Today, we explore the invisible threads that pull empaths toward narcissists, and more importantly, how you can honor your own heart, reclaim your energy, and choose connections that uplift rather than deplete. You are not too sensitive, not too caring, and certainly not too much. You are human, and your awareness is your greatest strength. In life, we often encounter people whose presence feels magnetic, drawing us in with a charisma that is difficult to resist. For empaths, who naturally sense and respond to the emotions of others, this pull can feel irresistible, especially when the person across from them carries a confidence and intensity that masks hidden vulnerabilities. It is in these moments that light meets shadow. The empath brings warmth, understanding, and an innate desire to nurture, while the narcissist brings a reflection of charm, power, and a subtle, sometimes unconscious demand for attention. This dynamic is not a matter of weakness. It is a dance of human energy where sensitivity meets the craving for validation, creating a connection that feels intense, meaningful, and often unavoidable. Being drawn to someone who takes more than they give can be confusing, especially when the connection is so compelling. The empath sees the potential for love, care, and change, believing that their compassion can fill gaps and soothe insecurities. The narcissist, whether aware of it or not, is drawn to this capacity for care, as it provides a sense of admiration and support that feeds their sense of self. It is not about fault or blame. It is about patterns that emerge naturally from human needs and tendencies. Recognizing this pattern is the first act of empowerment, allowing empaths to step back and understand that their desire to help does not obligate them to sacrifice their own emotional well-being. In the quiet moments of reflection, an empath may realize that the connection has been a mirror. The narcissist amplifies both strengths and vulnerabilities, showing the empath the depth of their own compassion and the areas where boundaries may have been too porous. There is a beauty in understanding this, because it reframes the experience from one of victimhood to one of insight. Every interaction becomes a lesson in emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and the power to choose wisely. The empath begins to see that their sensitivity is a gift, not a flaw, and that the pull towards certain people is a reflection of their own heart and the lessons they are ready to learn. This awareness opens the door to transformation. The empath learns to honor their own energy, to recognize when giving turns into depletion, and to cultivate relationships that are reciprocal, respectful, and nurturing. The shadow that once felt threatening becomes a guide, highlighting the importance of self-protection, discernment, and self-love. By embracing this understanding, empaths can navigate relationships with clarity, empathy, and confidence, recognizing that connection does not require surrender, and that their light shines brightest when it is not dimmed by the shadows of others' sensitivity, is often misunderstood in our society, a weakness, a vulnerability to be hidden or tamed. But for empaths, sensitivity is a profound source of power, a compass that allows you to navigate the emotional landscapes of life with clarity and compassion. When emotional pain arises, whether from being drawn into draining relationships or witnessing the struggles of others, it can feel overwhelming, as though the weight of the world rests on your shoulders. Yet within that very weight lies a hidden purpose, a doorway to growth, understanding, and transformation. Emotional pain is not a punishment, it is a signal, a teacher guiding you to deeper self-awareness and stronger boundaries. In life, the empath often absorbs more than their fair share of feelings. Joy, sorrow, anger, and fear are felt deeply, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. But this sensitivity is a gift when harnessed consciously. It allows you to perceive truths that others may overlook, to see beneath the surface, and to respond with a depth of care that can heal, inspire, and transform. The challenge lies not in feeling, but in learning how to channel those feelings in ways that serve rather than drain. By recognizing that emotional pain is information rather than identity, you can begin to transform it into purpose. Each difficult interaction, each moment of heartache, carries a lesson about your own limits, desires, and values. Turning sensitivity into purpose requires courage. It requires looking inward with honesty and compassion, acknowledging when you have overextended yourself, and learning to protect your energy without guilt. It requires understanding that your capacity to feel deeply is not something to hide or suppress, but a strength to cultivate. By doing so, empaths can redirect their energy into actions that are meaningful, whether it is helping others in sustainable ways, creating art or work that communicates authentic human experience, or nurturing relationships that are reciprocal and nurturing. Emotional pain becomes the fuel for growth, the spark that illuminates the path toward a more empowered and fulfilled life. Through this process, the empath begins to understand that sensitivity is not a burden to bear but a superpower to wield. It allows for a life lived with intentionality, depth, and richness. The experiences that once caused heartache become a source of wisdom, empathy, and resilience. Each moment of pain is reframed as an opportunity to strengthen inner boundaries, to cultivate self-love, and to act with clarity and purpose rather than reaction. As you embrace this perspective, the emotional highs and lows no longer dictate your well-being. Instead, they become guides pointing toward authenticity, connection, and meaningful contributions. Only a deeply sensitive person can make many empaths find themselves in cycles of emotional depletion, repeatedly drawn to relationships or situations that drain their energy and compromise their sense of self. It can feel as though no matter how much they give, the balance is never restored, leaving them exhausted and questioning their worth. Breaking this cycle is not about becoming cold or shutting down your heart. It is about learning to reclaim the energy that has been unconsciously surrendered and recognizing that your well-being is not negotiable. The first step is awareness, seeing the patterns in your life without judgment, acknowledging how often you have sacrificed your needs to care for someone who may not have reciprocated, and understanding that this is a pattern that can be changed. Reclaiming your energy begins with boundaries, which are not walls but rather healthy guardrails that protect your emotional, mental, and physical space. Saying no when something feels wrong or overwhelming is not selfish, it is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your presence and contributions have value and that your emotional health is a priority. For the empath, this can feel uncomfortable at first because the impulse to give is so strong. But each step taken to honor yourself strengthens your resilience, reinforces your sense of identity, and gradually diminishes the pull toward relationships that are draining or one-sided. Equally important is self-reflection and inner alignment. Empaths often absorb the emotions of others, carrying feelings that are not their own, which can cloud their judgment and distort their sense of reality. By taking time to reconnect with your own emotions, values, and needs, you create a center of gravity that is independent of external influences. This allows you to engage with the world from a place of clarity rather than compulsion. Practices like journaling, meditation, or mindful movement can become tools to release what does not belong to you, to ground yourself, and to recharge your inner resources. Breaking the cycle also involves rethinking attachment to outcomes and control. Empaths can fall into the trap of believing they are responsible for another person's happiness or behavior. Recognizing that you cannot change or fix someone who is unwilling to change for themselves is liberating. Your energy is best invested in ways that nurture your growth and purpose. By stepping out of patterns of overextension, empaths discover that their natural empathy can be preserved and amplified rather than depleted. They learn to choose relationships that honor their energy, challenge them positively, and encourage reciprocity. As this transformation unfolds, empaths experience a renewed sense of power. The exhaustion that once defined their interactions is replaced with vitality and confidence. They approach life with discernment, clarity, and intentionality, no longer bound by unconscious patterns of giving that cost them their peace. Their sensitivity becomes a strategic strength rather than a vulnerability, and each day offers opportunities to engage with the world on their own terms, cultivating relationships, work, and experiences that are nourishing and empowering. There is a unique pain in realizing that a relationship you invested deeply in has left you feeling drained, unseen, or diminished. For empaths, this is often an experience that repeats itself, leaving scars that feel both heavy and confusing. But within these experiences lies a remarkable opportunity to transform what once felt toxic into lessons that fuel personal growth and empowerment. It begins with the recognition that no one relationship defines your worth, and that the difficulties you have faced are not punishments but invitations to understand yourself more deeply and to strengthen your inner resources. Toxic bonds often reveal hidden truths about our boundaries, our patterns of giving, and our capacity for self-care. When we are caught in these dynamics, it can feel as if we are trapped, constantly giving more than we receive, striving to meet expectations that are never balanced. But the empath who chooses to reflect on these experiences discovers the lessons embedded within the pain. Each interaction becomes a mirror, showing where energy has been misplaced, where vulnerability has been misread, and where emotional generosity has been taken for granted. By observing these patterns with honesty and compassion, empaths can begin to reclaim their power and rewrite their approach to relationships. Transformation comes through conscious choice. It is not enough to recognize toxicity. Empaths must actively choose how they respond, learning to step away from what harms them and toward what nurtures them. This may mean setting firmer boundaries, prioritizing self-care, or disengaging from relationships that no longer serve growth. Each act of reclamation is an act of empowerment, a declaration that your energy is valuable and that your heart is not an endless resource to be drained. Through these choices, empaths move from being reactive to proactive, from giving in fear of loss to giving from a place of clarity and strength. Moreover, transforming toxic experiences into growth teaches resilience. The empathy that once seemed like a vulnerability becomes a refined skill, allowing you to connect with others authentically without losing yourself in the process. It provides insight into the human condition, revealing both the beauty and the flaws of connection. The lessons learned equip you to identify healthier relationships, to foster deeper emotional intelligence, and to engage with the world in ways that honor both compassion and self-respect. Over time, the sense of depletion that once accompanied these connections is replaced with empowerment. The energy that was once surrendered is reclaimed, and the heart that was once vulnerable is fortified with wisdom. Empaths begin to recognize that every challenging relationship has been a teacher, offering guidance on how to protect their energy, assert their boundaries, and choose connections that uplift rather than diminish. This transformation allows for a life lived with intention, where emotional experiences, once sources of pain, become tools for personal growth, resilience, and the creation of relationships and experiences that are nourishing, meaningful, and aligned with the deepest values of the self. Here's a 500 word inspiring explanation in the requested style. For empaths, the journey through life often involves putting the needs of others before their own, believing that love, care, and sacrifice are the measures of their worth. It can become a pattern where selflessness turns into self-erasure, and generosity is met with imbalance or even exploitation. Choosing self-love over self-sacrifice is not about abandoning empathy or becoming indifferent. It is about recognizing that your own emotional, mental, and physical well-being is essential for sustainable connection and authentic compassion. Freedom begins when you understand that caring deeply for others does not require diminishing yourself. Self-love starts with awareness. It means observing the moments when you overextend, when giving is motivated by guilt, fear, or the hope of approval. For empaths, these patterns often feel automatic, a response to the emotional currents around them. Yet once recognized, these patterns can be reshaped through intentional practice. Self-love is the deliberate act of placing your needs on equal footing with the needs of others. It involves asking yourself what you truly require to feel nourished, safe, and grounded, and taking consistent steps to meet those needs without apology. Boundaries are the practical expression of self-love. They allow empaths to engage fully and generously without losing themselves in the process. Saying no when necessary, stepping back when energy is being drained, and protecting your time and emotional resources are not acts of selfishness. They are essential acts of preservation. Through these boundaries, empaths learn that love is not diminished by limitation, but is actually strengthened when it is intentional and balanced. The ability to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion transforms relationships, creating mutual respect and deeper connection. Choosing self-love also means redefining the meaning of worth. For empaths, there is often a tendency to measure value through the lens of others' needs and reactions. Freedom comes when you realize that your worth is inherent, independent of how much you give or how others respond. Each act of self-care, each decision to honor your own needs, is a declaration that you deserve respect, joy, and fulfillment. This shift in perspective allows you to approach life with confidence, resilience, and clarity, knowing that compassion is most powerful when it is grounded in self-respect. Over time, self-love becomes a source of liberation. Empaths discover that they no longer feel compelled to rescue, fix, or absorb the emotional burdens of others to prove their value. Instead, they engage from a place of choice, with awareness and discernment. Emotional energy is preserved, relationships are healthier, and the heart is freer to experience genuine connection, joy, and growth. By prioritizing their own well-being while remaining deeply empathetic, empaths step into a life that honors both their sensitivity and their strength, cultivating a path where freedom, authenticity, and fulfillment coexist. Here's a 200-word motivational ending in the same tone. As empaths, the journey through relationships, challenges, and emotional highs and lows is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to the depth of your heart. Each connection, each experience, and even each painful encounter is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to reclaim the power that is inherently yours. The patterns that once left you drained can now serve as guides, showing you where to set boundaries, how to honor your energy, and when to choose yourself without guilt. Your sensitivity is not a burden, It is a gift that, when balanced with self-respect, allows you to create relationships and experiences that are authentic, nurturing, and empowering. Embracing self, love, and conscious boundaries transforms the way you engage with the world. You begin to recognize that your empathy is a strength, not a liability, and that choosing yourself does not diminish your care for others. It amplifies it. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice discernment, to connect from abundance rather than depletion, and to step into life fully empowered. In this space, freedom is not an abstract idea but a lived reality, where your heart remains open, your energy protected, and your path forward guided by awareness, courage, and unwavering self-respect.